Hello everyone, my name is Rouvinsky and I'm glad to have an opportunity to present this talk. First, I would like to thank the members of the FoNTI team who have organized this conference, as well as all its participants who are now watching this video. On behalf of our research group, I'd like to present some of reflections on the transformations of legal normativity that we are witnessing nowadays. The title of our work and my present talk is The New Legal Normativity Between the Technological Artefacts and Ritualism of the Social Credit System. To start with, I think it is possible to make a rather trivial but provocative statement. We live at a turning point. The leap in the development of the latest technologies connected with the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution is heavily changing social institutions, public administration, and even everyday communication between people. Mechanisms based on the use of advanced technologies such as big data analytics and neural networks are playing an increasingly important role in regulating human behavior. The transition to the Internet of Things and the use of artificial intelligence change the very nature of a person's relationship with his or her environment and, accordingly, the ways in which his or her interaction with this environment is influenced by the authorities. The ongoing changes have already allowed scientists to talk about the emergence of new forms of governance and the new normativity that is tightly connected to these new forms of governance or administration. As early as in 2017, Canadian criminologists Carrie Sanders and James Sheptytsky used the term stochastic governance to describe the governance of populations and territory by means of statistical representation based on the manipulation of big data. They characterized it as a fundamentally new form of policing social order. The adjective stochastic refers to the use of probabilistic methods by algorithms of artificial intelligence, and it is especially interesting that these methods are being applied to the area of social relations. It was stated in the paper written by Sanders and Sheptytsky that stochastic governance allows programmers to monitor and measure people's and populations' behavior. Close to the term stochastic governance stands the concept of algorithmic governance, which have been elaborated by a range of scholars including Natasha Just, Michael Latzar, Pascal Koenig and Christian Katzenbach. This concept reflects today's shift to the application of algorithmic methods in the behavioral assessment and the building of social hierarchies by governments and large-scale corporate entities. Ultimately, these methods are based on the logic of risk management, and this feature distinguishes this new type of governance from the more traditional forms of disciplinary control. So, it is obvious that this type of governance is genuinely linked to a certain type of normativity. Hildebrandt, a Dutch legal scholar who works at the intersection between law and computer science, has described the so-called technological normativity. What does it mean, and may we regard this type of normativity as the very normativity that is emerging as a result of the stochastic or algorithmic type of governance? According to Hildebrandt, technological normativity presupposes that instead of norms contained in legal texts or a long customary practice prescribing certain models of behavior, some technological artifacts directly define human behavior in certain situations. Technological normativity implies the regulation of human behavior through certain technological interfaces that are the technologies capable to allow, suspend, human actions in the automatic regime. These technological interfaces or artifacts do not prescribe anything to a person but act immediately as means that allow or limit the behavior of one kind or another. Such normativity does not appeal to a person's will, but directly defines his or her actions. As Mireille Hildebrandt notes, technological normativity does not depend on coercive authority, but on the socio-technical arrangements that constitute or regulate specific practices like consuming electricity, driving a car, and so on. Probable results of the development of such normativity are interesting. Law moved aside by or mixed with automatically functioning technological artifacts gradually becomes self-fulfilling, almost unconscious. But turning back to our previous statement, it seems that the phenomenon of technological normativity doesn't cover all of the manifestations and effects of the stochastic or algorithmic type of governance, as it has been described by Carrie Sanders, James Sheptytsky, and other scholars. The former refers mainly to separate technological gadgets which we use in our private life, while the latter is related rather to the public and corporate systems of control and surveillance based on the artificial intelligence, rather than to gadgets that we ourselves own. A striking example that can illustrate what the stochastic governance really is the so-called social credit system. Shehui Sinyon TC. The system that is now being developed and implemented in the People's Republic of China. The social credit system is a project that proposes the implementation of permanent panoptic control over citizens and attempts to regulate their behavior not so much through legislative prescriptions as through the formation of ritualized habits at the intersection of law, morality, and social ethics. This project combines together, first, traditional regulatory mechanisms rested on the positive law. Secondly, advanced technologies based on the big data analytics, and thirdly, ethical rituals relating to the neighborhood and family relations, political loyalty, and so on. The very term credit, Sinyon, in the name of the project is by no means limited to its financial meaning, but implies also such notions as trust and honesty. Pilot projects being introduced on the local level within the framework of the developing social credit system provide for the assessment of citizens' behavior both within and beyond the field of legal regulation. For example, within the Yumin Points project introduced in Fuzhou city of Jiangxi province, social credit points may be added for being an exemplary member of Communist Party. Also for charitable donations, acts of heroism and courage. Another program called The Honest Farmer in Xinjiang city of Guizhou province tries to incentivize rural residents' compliance with the good moral norms of promise keeping. Probably, it may be said that the social credit system combines two major Chinese approaches to the governance, both Confucian and legalist. On the one hand, we can easily find Confucian roots in the ideas and principles that lie at the core of the social credit system. As we all remember, Confucianism attached little importance to law, which, according to Confucianist thinking, plays a secondary role in shaping human behavior. As much more important, Confucianists saw the norms of social etiquette, primarily social rituals that were to be performed, not understood. The legalist school, also known as FoNTI, paid to the law much more attention, but conceived it as a kind of technique for conditioning citizens through punishments and rewards. Legalists considered that to ensure social order, the ruler must manipulate the two sole motives for human behavior: greed and fear. The contemporary social credit system in China is a marvelous illustration of both Confucian and legalist thought mistakenly contrasted with each other. It's important to say that at the present time the social credit system is not a sole and unified system, but it is rather a wide platform or a project within which Chinese central and local authorities experiment with various mechanisms of regulation and control. Its information backbone is the National Credit Information Sharing Platform, the master database for credit files on citizens, companies and even state agencies that allow any governmental agency on central or local level, as well as some large-scale corporations, to get data on subjects' credibility, trustworthiness, and offenses previously committed. The other significant component of a social credit system is the joint system of punishments and rewards on the basis of blacklists for trust breakers and correspondingly red lists for the particularly trustworthy persons. Here, the legalist ideas are especially evident. Finally, within the framework of the social credit system, there is a dozen of pilot projects of subjects' behavior assessment whereby citizens and organizations are subject to point systems. As I have been already mentioned, these projects may extend beyond the legal matters, covering situations traditionally regulated by moral and ethical norms. And this is how the Confucian ideas are being realized. So, finishing my observation, I would like to figure out some conclusions, or rather questions for the further examination. We have come very close to the dominance of new legal normativity, and this is still legal normativity. However, it breaks legal institutions, legal systems, and the whole legal order as we know them. On the one hand, we are witnessing a revolutionary deployment of technological interfaces that gradually replace the written law and traditional legal practices with a human in the center of them. And here we may see the danger of dehumanization of legal order, elimination of the will which is free, according to Hegel. On the other hand, we see the rise of social engineering projects that deal with humans as though they are Pavlov's dogs. These projects, aimed at ensuring the stability of a certain regime, use the policy of carrots and sticks to cultivate some useful reflexes, to cultivate social behavior that is not rationally acknowledged, but works because of the fear of punishments and greedy desire for rewards. It's a pity, but all of these processes are now being accelerated even more under the exceptional conditions of the current COVID-19 pandemic, which has allowed governments in many countries to expand the application of automated surveillance mechanisms and even more actively address to the algorithmic administration. That's about all. Thank you for watching this video.